Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my late ex-husband's kids money, especially after they tried suing me? My late ex-husband and I had 3 kids together. We divorced because he had mental health issues that he refused to seek help for. He remarried a woman almost immediately after, and they divorced as well after they had 2 young kids together. 2 divorces in 5-year span prompted him to finally get help, and he became a much better person, and we re-established a close friendship. When he got sick, could no longer work, and his medical bills were bankrupting him, I offered for him to live with me and our kids. When he passed, I established Social Security for my kids and moved on with my life, and I assumed that she did the same. The kids are now all over 18. 3 years ago, I got a court summons. His 2 other kids decided that their father had remarried me, and I stole all his money for myself/my kids. I was basically just the devil, and they were going to get what they were owed. This was completely wrong. I never remarried my ex. While we lived together as a family for the past almost 6 years, it was not even a little romantic, and it would have been stupid to remarry him. His medical bills were insane. There was no money for any of the kids, because he had no money. I was fine to have his kids come over, which was usually 50-50 aside from years 2 and 6, but I never pretended to be a parent to them. The reason there's some money now is because I was able to establish a good career, and my current husband was established when we met. I tried to talk to them, but they wouldn't listen and insisted on going before a judge. During the hearing, when records were pulled out, they switched to the argument that my ex acted as a stay-at-home parent for me, which allowed me to grow my career. This didn't work, and their case was dismissed. Now, they're not only still low income, but they have racked up the lawyer's fee. They're now crying to anyone that will listen about how evil I am to bankrupt teenagers, and how they're even more unable to go to college because I won't be fair. Some of our mutual relatives are now saying that I should care more about these kids, because they were basically my stepkids, even if not by law, and that a family isn't that black and white. Now for the top comments. Not they hole. They played dirty and now they're paying for it. Not your problem. Crappy actions meet crappy consequences. I like to say good decisions come from experience. Experience comes from bad decisions. Not they hole. And clearly, they were either misleading the lawyer, this case seems unwinnable, or the lawyer was hoping you would settle. Either way, they're not your problem. The lawyer got paid. He probably told them the chances are low, but why should he try to convince them not to pay him a lot of money? Probably one of those unethical lawyers taking advantage of fatherless teens full of rage, promising a settlement if they put enough pressure on dad's ex-wife because the lawyer gets paid regardless. Not the a-hole. There's clearly not ever going to be a way for you to alter their perspective on this. I am sure they legitimately feel that you somehow were unfair to them in this complex situation. However, that's on them, not you. If they had to be caretakers for their dying father, their burden would have been worse. They can join the legions of people who get zero financial resources from their parents and make their own way. You were an amazing person for helping your ex, and you owe the kids he created after your relationship was dissolved nothing. Plus, the kids had their own mother. It sounds like at the time of his passing, those kids might have been under 18. If their mom didn't go through the steps with Social Security for them to receive a portion of their dad's death benefit, well, tough. It sounds like the dad might have had 50-50 shared parenting with wife too, so there might not have been a child support order in place. Again, that's on wife too to explain to her kids, but I wouldn't be surprised if those kids heard a lot of "your dad is a deadbeat," even if support wasn't warranted in the case. These kids might be working from a baseline like, "Dad doesn't pay." Hope he will never know. Funny, I bet that those kiddos didn't step in as his heirs to settle any outstanding debts he had, if there were any. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not paying for my stepchildren's college? I, 49, have 2 stepchildren, Leo, 19 male, and Adam, 17 male. I entered their lives when they were 7 and 5, and despite my efforts, they never warmed up to me. I wasn't trying to be their mom, but just another loving parental figure. They told their dad how much they didn't like me when told them that we were engaged, and told my husband that they didn't want him to get married. Their dad reassured them that they would always be a big part of his life, and asked them to give me a chance. We even went to their mother for help, but she refused. They refused to come to the wedding and wouldn't spend the holidays with their dad if I was there. I was hurt over it for a very long time, but eventually grew to accept that this is how things were going to be, and just tried to focus on my own children. Although my husband always held out hope that one day we could all be one big happy blended family. Tragically, my husband passed away in an accident. It was hard, and after the funeral, Leo and Adam never reached out to us again. They barely acknowledged their half-siblings, 9 male and 9 female, at family events with my husband's side of the family, and I was sad for them. Fast forward to now, and my niece, sister-in-law's daughter, is going to college, and I agreed to give her $30,000 after sophomore year. My husband loved his sister and niece, so I was more than happy to do it. Word got back to Leo and Adam, and they learned that their father had a huge life insurance policy that I was the sole beneficiary of. Plus, my side business is now turning over a sizable profit. They reached out to me angry that I was hoarding their father's money and threatening to sue if I didn't tell them how much I got and get half. I was upset, but calmly explained to them that 1, life insurance isn't the same as an inheritance, so they had no legal claim to it. 2, when I initially received the payout, I gave some to their mom to hold on to them until they were of age. They didn't believe me until I sent them proof, and apparently their mom used the money to cover living costs and there was nothing left for them. Since I used some of the insurance money to fund my business, mother-in-law is asking me to pay for Leo and Adam to go to school, but I don't want to. They literally haven't spoken to me in years, and the first time they do is to demand money? Mother-in-law asked me to think of my own children, and how Leo and Adam may take out their resentment towards me on them. If that's the case, then I don't care to foster a relationship between them. Am I the a-hole? Added to add. I keep saying this, so I'll add it in here. 1, the life insurance policy was through my husband's job, and I was automatically named. My husband could have changed it, but didn't get around to it. 2, while my stepchildren were never named in the policy, there was always an understanding between us that I would give up some of the money to help Leo and Adam out, which is why I gave it to their mom. 3, no, there wasn't an official will, but it was my husband's intention to make one once he turned 60, but he died in his late 40s. 4, as for survivor's benefits, I can't say if Leo and Adam got some, since their mom and them never talked to me, and I never received anything in the mail about it. I'm guessing their mom took the money I gave her and didn't think that she would need anything else. Added to add, again keep saying this as well, so I'll comment here. 1, while I don't feel comfortable giving the exact amount, I will say that I gave their mother around 40% of the overall policy. It's the same amount that I saved for my children, while keeping 20% for myself as a spouse. Part of my 20% is what I used to start my business. 2, I didn't put the money into a trust for them because I trusted that their mom would do what she thought was best for them and didn't bother to keep tabs on it. 3, up until they called me, I didn't know my stepchildren didn't have money for college. 4, neither my husband or I had wills at the time because we thought we were both too young for those. But since his passing, I have made one for myself. 5, my stepchildren are welcome to try, but I doubt that they can sue me for anything because most of my husband's savings went to paying funeral costs and any debts he had prior to his death. The house we lived in was a gift from my side of the family with the condition that it would be solely in my name. 6, I also love sister-in-law's daughter and have a relationship with her, which is one of the reasons why I'll be giving her $30,000. It won't take care of all her expenses, but it is a good start. Not a hole. Do not let the people around you guilt you into spending the life insurance money, plus your hard-earned cash on ungrateful children. You owe them nothing. Mother-in-law asked me to think of my own children, and how Leo and Adam may take out their resentment towards me on them. They already don't even acknowledge their half-siblings. There's nothing more for them to resent. The gall of that woman. Like she doesn't have a front row seat to how her eldest grandkids treat their young siblings. Mother-in-law can pay for those 2 jerks. Leave Opie alone. Mother-in-law can also take it up with her son's first wife. Not a hole. Leo and Adam are already resenting their half-siblings. Plus, you already gave money to their mother for them, but she used it all. Your money, your choice. You owe them nothing. Yeah, It's their mother they need to be taking this up with, but probably realize it's all gone, and so are going to try and humbug off Opie. I've noticed a lot of the time, in-laws and similar relatives believe anything their relative contributed to the household was his/hers exclusively, but anything the spouse contributed or was given is marital property. I am also sure if Opie had put it in a trust for the kids and her as trustee, they would have accused her of micromanagement, or basically wouldn't trust her to keep her word. Not an a-hole. They haven't spoken to you in years. They barely acknowledge they have siblings. You literally gave their mom money for them. Why would they think, and they are ridiculous to think, they are entitled to more money for college? Next story. Am I the a-hole for not splitting money from my son's college fund to give to his stepsister? My stepdaughter's dad is a very wealthy man. I have only one son from a previous marriage. Since her father claimed he already had a college fund for her, since her father told us that, we didn't really save up a college fund for her since she already technically had one. When it was time for our stepdaughter to go to college, she asked her father for the money and he said had lost the money on spending on his multiple mistresses over the years. Our stepdaughter asked for another set of college funds since he already had millions, but he refused. My stepdaughter came to me and my wife, and the only way she would get a college fund is if I split the money from my son's accounts. My wife wants to accept it, but I don't. It wouldn't be fair, and we were led to believe he still had that money, so our son shouldn't be punished for it. My stepdaughter proclaims she hates me and my wife, and in-laws are stating I'm an a-hole who's heartless. They say I don't care about her future. I don't think I should be blamed for this, but her father should be the one getting yelled at. Am I really being cruel here? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You were led to believe that she already had a college fund set up for her. You provided a college fund for your child, and you were not obligated to split that, / share it with someone else who was supposed to already have one. Your stepdaughter is not the a-hole either. She has a right to be upset over the situation and angry at you though. Your stepdaughter's dad, on the other hand, is the big a-hole for spending his child's college fund that he has told you and your wife he has set up, especially when he's not limited on cash. Soft a-hole for your wife, because she should have set up a separate college fund for her daughter, because it shouldn't fall to a single parent to contribute to the fund regardless of one party having more money. If she hadn't separated from her ex, she likely would have been contributing to it anyway. I disagree. Stepdaughter does not have a right to be mad at Opie, and her anger is misdirected. She should be mad at her dad. Like WTF. Also, the fact her dad has the money but won't spend it on her education, whereas Opie doesn't. They saved for years, and I agree, his son shouldn't have to suffer because her rich dad just doesn't feel like it anymore. My wife would most likely save money for her if they hadn't separated. Not the a-hole. Have your wife check her divorce degree. This is usually defined as part of the divorce. If it indicates that father was responsible, sue for the college fund. Wait, so the dad promised and went back on his word, but she hates you and everybody else blame you? Not the a-hole. I mean, the only one at fault is stepdaughter's father who clearly has the money, but for no reason decided to punish her. But you two as parents also at fault for simply trusting him and not preparing for the worst. Are you telling me that neither of you knew the man well enough to see this coming? Someone clearly didn't learn a lesson during the divorce. I still don't understand why he would spend specifically that money in that account, but the guy apparently has millions anyway. It seems like he never wanted to pay for college in the first place. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for asking my stepson to move rooms when the new baby arrives? My husband has 2 kids, a 17-year-old daughter Cassie and a 10-year-old son Brad. Cassie decided that she would live full-time with her mom when she turned 16, which she could legally do at that age. My husband and his ex-wife share 50-50 custody of Brad, week on, week off. In January of this year, my husband made a decision that he wanted to move to and buy a new house in another city that is 2 hours flight away. This meant that we would have to fly back every second week. We kept an apartment here, when we have custody of Brad as he goes to school in the city we used to live in. Since January, the past 4 months, Brad has spent a total of 5.5 weeks, elapsed, at our new house over the various school and public holidays. He stayed 2 weeks in January, half a week in February, half a week in March, and 2 weeks in April. Our new house is 4 bedrooms. The master bedroom which my husband and I share is at the end of a long hallway. Right next to our room is Brad's room for when he comes to visit in the school holidays. Between his room and the next room is a space where we have an office space, desk and chair, set up. The next room is Cassie's room for when she comes to visit in the school holidays. The room next to Cassie's room is a spare room. I'm currently over 5 months pregnant and have suggested that we switch Brad's room to the spare room, or Cassie's room, since she's only been over 2 weeks in the past 4 months and doesn't really care since she doesn't view it as her room, and make Brad's current room the nursery. My husband doesn't want the baby sleeping in the same room as us, even though it's recommended by doctors to reduce the chances of SIDS, which was why I want the baby in the room right next door to us, so at least he will be close. I'm anxious about SIDS. It's my first biological child, and it would make me feel better to know that he is at least next door, so I can run over if anything happens and I can hear him. Brad doesn't want to move rooms, and my husband is agreeing with him, and says the baby should be in the room at the opposite end of the hallway, 3 bedrooms away. He's of the opinion that if SIDS were to happen, there's nothing we can do anyway. We've had a massive argument about it. He thinks making Brad move rooms will make him feel like he's moving down the pecking order, verbatim, and that we don't love him anymore. I just think that the house is more like a holiday house to Brad, as he's only there during the holidays and doesn't view it as his home, and he hasn't spent any great length of time in that room. The benefit of easing my anxiety and lowering the chances of SIDS seems like it's worth asking Brad to switch rooms that he's only spent a few weeks elapsed in. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. But do not do the "it's my first biological kid" thing. It's irrelevant and definitely reinforces the moving down the pecking order thing. The baby needs the room because it's a baby, not because it has your genes. When my baby was born, I really wanted him to used to sleeping in his own crib in his own room right away. So I put our guest bed in the nursery and slept in there for the first 6 months. You are going to be getting up with the baby several times a night for months, and the closer the baby, the less work it all is, and the easier it is for you to get back to sleep. I would 100% recommend putting an extra bed in the nursery, but I'm worried that would signal your husband you are doing all the getting up. You need to have a conversation with your husband now about how much he intends to do the night waking with the baby, because refusing to have the baby in your bedroom combined with being okay with the nursery being hell and gone from your bed looks like he thinks he won't have to be bothered to take his butt down the hall all night long, and he intends to make it your problem. Even if you are breastfeeding, he could get up and change the diaper and bring the baby to you, or walk and soothe the baby when she's awake but not hungry. This dude needs to be prepared to do his share, and it doesn't sound like he's getting ready to. My husband doesn't want the baby sleeping in the same room as us, even though it's recommended by doctors to reduce the chances of SIDS. There's your real problem. I think you should fix that first before asking your stepson to move. I would say the only a-hole is your husband. Though, out of curiosity, what is the size difference between stepson's current room and the room you want him to move into? The room size is exactly the same. His room, Cassie's room, and the spare room are all built the same way. Same size, same wardrobe space, same side of the house. All 3 rooms have a window. He's of the opinion that if SIDS were to happen, there's nothing we can do anyway. Pump the freaking brakes! If my husband had said that to me when I was pregnant, I would have reevaluated our entire relationship. That is such a callous and cruel thing to say about your future child, and patently untrue. Proximity to parents does prevent SIDS, and you're going to need to get up several times a night for feedings. So obviously, the baby should be as close to you as possible. Not today, Hall. And demand your husband attend both parenting classes and couples therapy ASAP. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex-wife's fiancé the truth about our divorce? My 33 male ex-wife, 30 female, and I got divorced 3 years ago. In college, we worked at the same restaurant. That's where we met. We were together for 7 years and married for a little over 3.5. We divorced because she cheated, twice. 2 years into our marriage, I discover she's having an affair with a former classmate. I collect enough evidence and confront her. She confesses everything. The affair was about 2 months long. This was a really terrible time and was really hard to work through with her. You can call me an idiot, but I'm a forgiving person. I do believe in second chances and that people can change. We agreed to reconcile. We did the work. We had marriage counseling. We read some of the books. She went no contact with classmates right away. Open phone policy. We told our parents. She was doing the right things and our relationship was recovering. 1 year into our reconciliation, her aunt dies. I am very busy with work and cannot attend the services, as they are on Thursday and Friday back in her hometown 5 hours away. Her parents and brother no longer live there, so she stayed with a good friend from high school. I had met this friend a few times and was comfortable with that. On Saturday morning, my wife texted me that a car was loaded and she was about to start making the drive home. About an hour after that, I got a Facebook message from the friend, who stated she wouldn't be able to live with herself if she just let this go, but informed me that my wife had gone out Friday night with some old friends from high school. The friend thought nothing of this until she discovered my wife had left her phone behind and that she didn't come back until the following morning. I had gotten a text that Friday night from my wife that she was going to bed early since the past few days had been emotionally draining. I confronted my wife as soon as she got home. She was really hesitant to tell me anything, so I lied to her and told her that if we were going to work through this, I needed to know everything like the last time. That got her to confess that she had gone out and had gone home with an old friend from high school. She said they didn't have sex, but did do stuff that I won't go into detail about here. It didn't matter. Once I got enough of the truth, I left for my parents' house. That week, my dad called my landlord and paid all the termination fees and got me out of the lease. We went and got my stuff while she was at work. My parents then set me up with a friend of theirs that was a divorce attorney and he cut me a deal. Took about 7 months for divorce to go final. That was 3 years ago. I have an awesome girlfriend and I'm doing well. This past weekend, I got a Facebook message from a guy who is now engaged to my ex-wife. He introduced himself and said he was probably just being crazy, but he wanted to know why we had gotten divorced. He said he had broached the subject a few times, and she always gets weird. She had told him we had divorced because we grew apart, but mostly she just deflects, or is really, really vague. I told him the truth and offered evidence if he would like. He declined and thanked me for my time and story. A day later, I get a phone call from a local but unknown number. I answer and it's my ex-wife. She is really upset at asking me why I'm trying to ruin her future. I get her to come down and talk. She says her fiancé has asked for some space and is staying with his parents this week. That he is saying he needs to reevaluate their relationship. She wants to know why I told him all about our past and why I'm still punishing her. She tells me she's not that person anymore and has done all this work and been in therapy. That she deserves another chance and I'm being petty and hateful. There were a few generic insults thrown. I got a little mad and told her if she really changed for the better, she would have been upfront with him about her/our past and owned up to cheating in her prior marriage. And then gone about showing her fiancé that she was ready to be a worthy partner to him and like she was with me. Instead, she tried to lie and hide the truth, and now it's blowing up in her face again. She said a few choice words and hung up. I haven't heard anything since. I told my girlfriend and she reassured how I handled it. But I find myself feeling guilty. I still believe in second chances and that people can change. While I would have felt wrong lying to the guy, I wonder if I should have handled the whole thing differently or just not responded. If she is truly different and this is just a blip, I don't want to be the thing that prevents her from finding happiness, but also believe I'm not what's hurting her engagement. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. He wouldn't have reached out if he didn't see any red flags. I think this is the answer. There is a reason he sought OP out. He clearly had concerns about the relationship. OP, I don't think you're in the wrong. I think your response to both your ex and her fiancé were correct. Hopefully your ex will learn to truly do the work and find a way to be honest with her current fiancé or future relationships if this one decides he can't stick with her. Not a-hole. Yes, exactly. Also, if she had changed, she would have been honest about it. But instead, she was cagey and lying, which is the exact same behavior as when she cheated. So no, she isn't a different person. She hasn't changed in one iota. Not a-hole. I'm like you. I would feel guilty because at a glance, it seems like being honest about your experience caused your ex to potentially lose her relationship. However, you are holding yourself accountable for someone else's actions. Your ex cheated. Your ex withheld information from her current partner. Your ex is still avoiding accountability. You are not responsible for her actions. Anything that happens in her relationship is her problem, not yours. Thank you for this. I got to remind myself of that. I hate causing others pain, so I'm glad to hear from someone who can relate. She made choices. You simply answered the question honestly. Dude deserves the facts. Focus on him, not her. Her actions then and now caused her pain, not you. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not willing my house to my girlfriend after she put her house up for sale when moving in with me? I, male 53, was married for 20 years, and my wife passed away 4 years ago. We had no children, so many years ago we both did our wills. In our wills, we gave each other everything, and if we both died, then everything would go to my wife's nieces and nephews. I have no living relatives. One of the reasons I did this was because my wife's parents had some money, and my wife inherited several $1,000,000 from them. One of the things we did with her inheritance was we bought our dream house. It's a big house, about 4,500 square feet, and has a 1,500 square foot garage out of the country. About a year ago, I met Samantha, 55 female. She has her own house, but she would always come over to my house and spend the night. We got to talking, and I said she could move in with me. Samantha has a daughter who is 25 and asked if she could move in too. My basement is pretty big, with a small kitchen and a few extra bedrooms, etc., so I didn't mind. Samantha is in the process of selling her house, and she asked me if I would put in my will that she would get my house if I died. I told her, no, that was for my in-laws' money, and that should go all to my nieces and nephews as it says in my will. Samantha argues that if I die and she has no house, she will have no place to live. I told her, yeah, you get the money from the sale of your house, plus you won't have a mortgage payment. So take that money and put it in a money market account. I was pretty put off by this conversation because from my point of view, Samantha would have zero expenses and she could put all her money into savings, minus whatever she wants to buy herself. Not like she doesn't have a job. We got heated over this conversation and Samantha said that I was trying to control her with money. When she said that, I told her that maybe this relationship wasn't such a good idea. So am I the a-hole here? Not a-hole. I would tell Samantha that you aren't being controlling. You aren't asking for any of her money and you ask that she does the same of you. If this is a problem, then she shouldn't sell her house and live with you. You are just setting the expectation that your house will go to your late wife's family. Samantha should not sell her house honestly. If I were in her shoes, I would turn it into a rental property or let the daughter live there for at least a year before selling. This OP. Girlfriend needs to keep her house and rent it to her daughter or another tenant. She is in no way entitled to inherit a house purchased with money belonging to your deceased wife and her family, which you wanted left to them at OP's passing. You may or may not be surprised to know how often this scenario sets up this way. I'm actually surprised your wife's attorney didn't insist upon making sure your joint wills didn't set in stone as soon as she passed. My parents did their wills that way after watching multiple second wives of friends inherit all of the first wife's estates, cutting out the first wife's children entirely. My friend's dad remarried after her mom died. Her parents had an agreement that mom's half of everything would go to their kids. Her dad changed his will, so everything would go to the new wife, even her mom's jewelry. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband he can't divorce me and still consider himself my daughter's stepdad? My 42 female 16-year-old daughter is not my husband's biological daughter. Her dad decided after I got pregnant that the mom of his child wasn't the woman he wanted to marry and is not in her life. It was just me and my daughter for the next 7 years until I married my husband. We had 3 kids in quick succession after we got married. There are now 8 male, 7 female, and 5 female. I recently found out I was pregnant and that has made my marriage worse. My daughter's dad first lived off of others giving him money to be an equestrian. He later, I found out, started getting hired as riding instructor / helped others take care of their horses. His inconsistent income / 1099 status was what he used to dodge his financial responsibilities. I started my daughter on this path as a hobby, but it was clear that she was talented. I would work a second job as a stable aide so that she could afford lessons, would drive other kids to and from lessons, and do other odd jobs to put towards her training expenses, until I married my husband and became a stay-at-home mom. My husband was very supportive of her pursuit until she entered high school. We were looking into possible future scholarships, which I understand are rare, to come out of her competing, or college with equestrian programs. My husband started lying about how my daughter did not want to do this, and how he loves her more than me because he understands her better. He embarrassed me by complaining about the other moms whose kids competed, saying they were snobs, or that he didn't want me to try to fit in with them or get their approval. Then he'd complain to parents about the new group lesson costs, etc. I found out I was pregnant and went with my daughter to an event and got too sick and tired to attend a school open house, and he flipped out on me when he came home. We got into a fight, and he told me that this isn't working out. I feel he says that to scare me, but I was not scared of divorce because I'm not going to grovel for his approval, and I can make it work without him. I told him I'll happily grant his divorce. He then says he wants joint custody of all the kids. I told him that legally he has no grounds with my daughter. He says she can still come to his place when he has the other kids, and I remind him she doesn't have a license and I don't owe him any agreement to drive her to his place. He screams, "She is my stepdaughter. I've been her dad." I told him he cannot just want to divorce his pregnant wife and get the benefits of that, including my general cooperation with his divorce, and still claim the title of my daughter's stepdad. He can't have his cake and eat it too. Legally, I am in the right, since I never adopted her. He does not want to support my 16-year-old's goals. With a divorce, he doesn't have the responsibility that being an equestrian parent entails. All her bills will be coming out of my account. But that means he cannot just continue to enjoy all the benefits of that without any of the responsibility. I don't think that's fair. I told my daughter that her stepdad wants a divorce because he absolutely hates paying for her lessons, says they are making her into a snob like me and the other moms. She's a people pleaser, so should say yes to seeing him just to not hurt his feelings. But she has said that if he really hates her because she wants to be an equestrian, then she just wants to continue her passion. And it seems most conducive to do so where she's living with me and not seeing somebody who actively wants to stop her future dreams. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. It sounds like you're weaponizing your daughter because your husband wants a divorce. Has he actually said these things about her and her lessons? Something seems a bit off with the story. That's what I took away from this post. My daughter has an expensive hobby. My husband can't afford it, so I'm divorcing him and refuse to let him see the daughter he raised. To make it easier for her to hate him, I am blaming the divorce on my husband not wanting to support her. If you want to pay for your daughter so bad, then get a job to pay for her hobby, and stop blaming your husband to alienate him from your daughter. He raised her and he wants custody of her. Are you going to divorce him and tell your daughter, well, it looks like none of your fathers love you. At least your siblings have a father. I'm sure that will work out great for her well-being and mental health. Also, the message to the daughter, your hobby caused you to lose your stepdad. Super messed up. Even if it were true, I wouldn't tell a kid that. Does your daughter want him in her life still? And you told her that he wants to divorce you because of her lessons? Wow. Yeah, you're the a-hole for that alone. That is honestly the worst thing you could do in a divorce. I can't fathom a parent inflicting pain on their child to hurt their partner. Both the daughter and husband deserve so much better than Opie. She's literally treating her daughter like a personal vendetta tool. No consideration for ripping away the man she obviously seemed to have considered a father. Legally, he has no right? Get out of here. Truly Mother of the Year. And by the way, knowing the culture around horses, I am very liable to agree with the father's version of events. Last story. Am I the a-hole for resenting my wife for not believing my side of the story? I, male 46, have been married to my wife, Heather, female 45, for 18 years. We have 2 kids, 16 female and 14 male. We work for the same company, but in different departments. She works on a different floor of our building. We recently hired a new employee, Sarah, female 30. I helped her a lot with her training and even prepared a guide for her so she could catch up on a new role quickly. I told her she could drop by anytime if she had a question. She kept coming to my desk to chit-chat. Even my coworker Chris, who shares an office with me, noticed. I thought she was new and lonely, so not a big deal. She asked me to go out for lunch with her. I laughed and joked, asking if Chris wanted to join us for lunch. Then Sarah looked at me and said no. She meant just us to talk. Plus, she wanted to buy me lunch because I'd been so nice to her. Chris gave me a look. I told her she didn't have to and that I was just doing my job. She insisted and I agreed. During lunch, she started rubbing my hand. I moved my hand and changed the topic to my wife, bringing her up repeatedly. She eventually said she found me attractive and wanted to be more than friends, suggesting we start with friends with benefits and see where it goes. She said she thought I wasn't happy in my marriage because I was having lunch with her and laughing, while she never saw me having lunch with my wife. I told her I was married and wanted to keep our friendship professional. She didn't like my reply and became quiet. I apologized, but she said it was all good. I paid a bill for both of us since it was so awkward, and we went back to work. I received a letter from HR telling me they needed to talk to me because Sarah filed a complaint. She said I'd asked her out for lunch, been inappropriate and handsy, and even pressured her to sleep with me, but she left. I was floored. Luckily, my coworker Chris can confirm my side of the story. I immediately told my wife the whole thing and she got furious at me. She said she believed Sarah's side because she stands by the victim. I told her Sarah was lying. Chris can confirm she invited me. Also, I wasn't inappropriate. I didn't touch her and turn her down. My wife rolled her eyes and said Sarah is a gorgeous woman much younger than me, implying I took advantage of her. I was so annoyed. I've always been faithful to her. How could she possibly think of me like this? Luckily, the HR issue was resolved, and I just have to do some training. I asked to move to another team, so I won't be working with Sarah anymore. Am I the a-hole for resenting my wife for not believing my side? For taking her side without any proof? I basically barely talked to my wife since the incident. This will get lost in the sea of comments, but I'm wondering if the restaurant has a video recording of the dining area. You could prove you're telling the truth really quickly with a recording of her getting handsy and you pulling away. I'm gonna check with the restaurant. It's a small cafe/restaurant within walking distance of our office. Speaking of intel, I wonder what her behavior/performance was like at her previous jobs. The fact she pursued you and then reported false accusations to HR this quickly into a new job suggests a level of diabolical confidence in my opinion. A reckless immaturity, I guess. Regardless, something ain't right, and I wouldn't be surprised if this was some kind of MO for her. I don't know how you could safely investigate her past, but something to think about. Not the a-hole, obviously. This is just a perfect example of the double standard that men deal with in these types of situations. Your wife should know you well enough by now to know the truth. Several comments support exactly the conclusion you're reaching here. This type of lying/double standard can ruin someone's life so easily. It can, and it has. I'm a woman, and I think women who lie about things like this and destroy lives on a whim are one of the lowest forms of human scum. Not only is OP a direct victim of this woman's reputation-ruining lies, but every woman who legitimately had something happen to her and was not believed is also an indirect victim. There should be harsh consequences for women that lie about assault. I understand why there isn't, but it's absolutely infuriating to see anyone do something like this and walk away from the wreckage with no repercussions.